Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I feel like that opening music makes me want to go slow dancing. Like it's so jazz. So let's do this. So I want to talk to you about how to use AI as a creative today. I'm really excited. As Andy mentioned, I have a lot of slides to get through. So just quickly to help me out, what's the ratio here of like students to professionals? Students, can you put your hands up? Okay, cool. And then professionals, great. Okay, and just one more, who has used AI in some capacity? Okay, great. Easy peasy. So I'm gonna go through a couple of like practical things. There's some new tools that came out. I feel like every time I go to the toilet and come back, there's a new tool. So I'm gonna go through a couple of those, and I'm gonna talk about how I use things, who I am, all the fun stuff. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing is I'm Greek. Wow, shock horror, long last name. I come from a long line of storytellers. So my family are from the olive groves of Corinth and the shores of Kalamata, but I was born and raised in Australia. My culture is shaped by philosophers and poets. We are people that question and challenged everything. So that really falls into me being a storyteller and using AI as the story, basically. So that's, I'm thinking maybe what I would have looked like in the ancient times, but yeah, AI is great for that. So good for the internet memes, oh my gosh. So that's the fun part, but actually who I am is I'm a filmmaker. I founded Mermaid Toast, which is a female-driven creative agency. We do a lot of AI consulting in film. I've done talks with James Cameron before. I collaborate with Michael Bay frequently, and I've spent the last couple of years pioneering how AI can basically empower creatives and not replace them. So my story is essentially, I'm a director, and I always wanted to be in narrative, whether it was documentary or scripted. And a couple of years ago, I had my first feature that I was going to make. And the day before shooting, the strike happened and the studio pulled the plug. So, whoa, whatever, rite of passage, we'll call it, and probably one of the greatest things that happened, because that film will still have a life, but that landed me in the AI space, because I ended up spending 8 years trying to make this film, and then when that gets ripped out from under you through no fault of your own, you kind of just sat there and you have all of this energy, and it's like, what do I do with that? So I was just creating things. I'm a very visual person, so I ended up just kind of playing like most people have with Midjourneys, where I started, putting tests on Instagram, Twitter, you name it, getting death threats, all the fun stuff, anything someone could say to a person, I've heard it. But kept kind of going, because I was just like, no, this feels like really creative. I'm expelling a lot of like creative energy, and it sort of became like a space where I saw a really big opportunity for pitching and using AI as like as an aid to essentially help get projects off the ground. So today what I want to cover is how I use AI tools for previs specifically, pitch decks and VFX. I'm going to go through a couple of like how-tos, and then talk a little bit about character consistency and collaborating with 3D animation. So what I'm going to do now is play this reel so I can give you some context. So this is about 4 minutes. Have fun.
Let's go. Let's go. Go.
Massive kudos to Runway. With Runway, we can be any character we want to be and tell any story we want to tell. This is huge and absolutely game-changing for the future of storytelling and filmmaking. I could be a rabbit, I could be a cowboy, I could be a cartoon character, I could be a squirrel. The possibilities are absolutely infinite. Good morning.
I am definitely in my feelings today. I'm very anxious, but it's okay because the sun is shining and I'm here to have a really nice day. Big smiles, big hugs. Mwah.
In the land of gods and legends, she all reigns. Athena's here, the hero we embrace. Ancient power in her hands, the future calls. Facing titans, she stands tall. Athena's ascent, she's rising high. With wisdom and strength, she'll touch the sky. In a world of chaos, she brings the fight. Athena's here to make things right.
Rock and roll. Thank you. Okay, so thanks. So why does that matter? So basically, a couple of things that I showed you there, notably the last two. There was the Athena project and then the racing project, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that one later. But so all of those are a combination of tests as well as like concept work for things that are now gotten off the ground. So for example, that Athena thing, I am like such a fan of like old like 80s style cartoons and anime and like Pokemon, and like the deep nerd in me just gets like really excited. So I had this concept for like a modern retelling of Athena. The whole world is in disarray, much like ours basically, and the gods have been asleep for like, I don't know, millennia, and they get woken up because of all the chaos that's happening in the world. So they basically like come down and Athena gets to rewrite her story and all that kind of fun and jazz. So I basically pitched like a 5-minute episode using AI. That song is AI as well as a concept. and pitched that to a studio, and it's now gotten picked up and getting made. So that is the power of AI. It's brilliant. And now we have, a band and a musician and people actually recording their version of what that song would be. So I can use that to be like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Instead of pulling a bunch of references together, it makes my workflow much faster. So where that's led me is to consulting with the ASC a lot. I work with a lot of cinematographers. I work with the DGA, the PGA, the Academy, like all of those different fun places. I love Hollywood so much. Seriously, it's so exciting being from Oz and then now going, wow, cool. So this is my favorite topic to talk about. So my goal is to basically just show you how transformative all of these tools can be. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is where do you start? As we said, and I don't know if anyone was here for Jim's talk before, but there's so many tools. There's literally a gazillion of them. And as I said, every day, by the time I go to the loo and come back, there's a new tool. I redid my presentation this morning because there was a new tool. So where do you start? Because it can be a little bit overwhelming. So what I kind of want to talk about are the tools that help you and are essentially the best creative partner for you. I really look at AI as a creative ally. So these are just a couple of the tools. There's Midjourney, Reeve, Runway, etc. So what I'm going to go through is how we can go from storyboarding to then texturing to then the actual execution of a video and where that fits in the pipeline, whether you're prevising or working with a really big director. So some of my favorite tools are Storyboarder AI, Midjourney, Reeve, and Magnific. So in this first part, I'm going to kind of go through those. So let's tackle storyboarding first. I'm going to show you there is a really great app called Storyboarder AI, which I really love to use. Outside of working with AI, I still direct my own projects. So I recently directed a 20-minute short. We had big crew, all the fun stuff. It had been a while since people had been on set and I had been on set. I'm great, let's get the gang together and do a thing. And it's a proof of concept and ability for a feature. So I was like, you know what? Now I'm down this AI rabbit hole. Why don't I use it to help me storyboard and communicate to my cinematographer much better? So the film was called A Funeral for My Vibrator. It's very funny. What I did was I used Storyboarder AI. So I'm going to take you through how I used it. And this is kind of what it looks like. You can add a project. You can put in a concept or a script. In my case, I had my writer's script. So I wrote the project title, which is that. And you can select the genre and drag and drop your PDF or file of your script in. So from there, it's going to think. You just press next. You can then pick the type of storyboard art that you want. So you can do pencil, comic, you can upload your own, cinematic and moody. For this case, I really like just the loose drawings. And then it's going to input your script. And that's exactly what it looks like. And that is my writer's script. So from there, I'm essentially going to go, okay, great, this looks good. I'm not going to add to it. Or if I do, I can, but I can lock it in. So when I click on shot list now, it's going to lock in the script and it's going to be like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Because now you can't change it, which is fine. And it's going to think. And then you're going to get a screen like this where it literally starts shot listing everything it thinks that you should have based on what's written in the script. So when I'm shot listing, it usually it takes me a really long time. So I kind of use this as a really brilliant aid to help me start. And of course, all of it, that's not right. I have my director's vision on it, so I'm going to change things like the shot style and whether we're doing tracking and, the lenses and notes and all that kind of fun stuff. But you can remove and add shots and whatever. And so from there, you can go, great, I'm now going to storyboard this and I'm going to visualize it. And then you, just like I just did with the script, generate storyboard. And what it's going to start doing is start giving you panels like this based on that shot list. And you can kind of go back to the shot list and then play here and like remove and add and, you know, find a new image, retry, do a variation and edit, all that kind of fun stuff. And then I can essentially take that and export it into a document that looks like this, but just maybe like 30 or 40 pages longer, and give that to my DP with my references. So that's like a really effective way of it helping me kind of like get to where I need to go a little bit faster and a little bit easier. Now, if you don't want to use a program like this and you're doing some low level, like you just want to kind of do it yourself, you can also use ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT isn't just for helping write emails and whatnot, it's brilliant. So these are some examples, excuse my typos, my brain doesn't catch up to how fast I speak and type sometimes. So this is an example of just a fluffy cow that I wanted walking through, you know, lost in the woods and finding a ladybug and seeking help. So I essentially just asked ChatGPT to do that for me. And this is what I got, which is pretty neat, I think. And then later, what I can show you is I can take these images, texture them, and make them a little bit more realistic, which is so much fun. If you are terrible at drawing, like I very, very clearly am, ChatGPT will also basically take your really shitty drawings and make them better. So this is a really good example of something else. I was storyboarding with a fisherman and he kind of comes across a mermaid in a cave. I have no idea how it figured out that's what I was trying to draw, but evidently it did, so that was really great. And another example here is just like a really round robot encountering a human, and so I was just kind of testing to see the consistency, if it would give me like a round robot, and it did. So it's pretty neat. So from there, you can also, if you work with Midjourney and you know anything about image generating, it sounds like most of you probably have played with it, so I'm not going to go too deep into Midjourney other than it's brilliant. You can take one image, so this middle image is my example, and you can essentially use it with a tool called Magnific to fill in your storyboards and essentially generate live action storyboards based on one image. So this is a bit of a demo really quickly on how to do it. These are some storyboards that were drawn, and that is the filled in version with just one reference of this old fisherman. So I input my storyboard into Magnific, which a lot of people use as an upscaling tool, and it's brilliant for that, but it's also brilliant as a reference tool. And so as you can see, this is the image of the old man. This is my drawing. I'm going to take it in and I'm going to use a style transfer and play with the settings. And that's what I'm going to get, which is freaking cool. So I love Magnific for a multitude of reasons. So moving on from storyboarding, I want to talk a little bit about one specific thing that I really enjoy in Midjourney. I love Midjourney so much I could kiss it. Midjourney is super powerful. You can do things like style referencing, character referencing. In painting, they now have layer separation, so you don't have to take things to Adobe Photoshop, and you can just do it all in the editor, which makes it so much more efficient and so incredibly powerful. So a couple of things that Midjourney does really well is gives you random style codes. Now, sometimes you have to find these yourself by just typing in this code sref to the end with random written, and then you'll get a number. And that is what the number looks like for the shots. I tested it with cowboys. I really like cowboys. For some reason, I'm going through a glam cowboy phase. This is what it looks like. So you can test these yourself by just playing and typing in random. Or you can go on Twitter, and there's a whole bunch of these like written out there by all these amazing artists that you can follow. They're pretty easy to find. So I basically just had a play. I was trying to come up with a look for this Speed Queen project, which I showed you in the reel before. Now, context for that, also you can turn yourself into a Lego character, so that's fun. So Speed Queen is essentially a project that was sparked from this feature that I wanted to do. And when I started getting into AI, I had a brilliant director, Rob Minkoff, who did the original Lion King, come up to me and was like, hey, can you teach me AI? Let's collaborate, let's do something. So he graciously, workshopped some ideas with me, and we came up with a TV series called Speed Queen. And I wanted to create like a really specific look that wasn't just standard cartoon anime that a lot of people are used to seeing. So that's when the style referencing came into play with Midjourney. I basically found this like cool Tron-esque retro like style that I then blended and used, and then that was the basis of like some storyboards, as you see here, for the concept, which we now have in development. So it's like a great space to play if you want to test some ideas out and don't want to spend like 1,000 hours just like looking over shot deck and trying to like see what else has been done and blend ideas and kind of create something that feels a little bit authentic to you and a bit like your own. So moving on from Midjourney, that's a tool I think, like I said, a lot of people are familiar with and I really like, but Reeve is a new kid on the block. And Reeve is brilliant because Midjourney, as most of you would probably know, has its own language it likes to be spoken to. So the difference between Midjourney and Reeve is Reeve you can talk to like a collaborator. And I have this character above. I basically typed in, make her older or make her cry, and it would do shots like this, which is pretty cool. It's also super cinematic, like really, really, really dreamy. Like that, I have not been able to get that quality from Midjourney. So you can see it almost feels like it's shot on like some old glass or something, which I really, really enjoy. And it's a great kind of, it's a great model for editorial looking work. So if you're a designer or if you're in photography, you're gonna get more detail. Like that girl on the end there, you can see lines under her eyes, which is pretty cool. You get really nice action shots. Your wide angles are really nice. Midjourney doesn't quite give you that. It's a little bit more conceptual. This one's a little bit more editorial and high contrast, which is a really cool look. And so this is what the interface looks like. You can basically drag and drop an image. You can pop in a prompt. And then you have like a section there that says instruct, which is really cool because that's when you can talk to it and be like, actually, can I have a close-up? Or actually, can I have this angle? And it's going to give you a bunch of this. Character consistency-wise, not super great. It's very new, so it really is just like a good storyboarding tool to kind of play with different like ideas, essentially. And then from there, you can build out your scene. So like one of the common issues that we have in AI is like, how do you direct AI? How do you build out a scene other than just like one image, right? So apart from a couple of days ago, I was using ChatGPT to build out a scene, and I still do. And I'll talk about why in a minute on the other program. But ChatGPT is super great because I can take an image from Midjourney or Reeve, and I can say, can I have a reverse angle of this shot over the shoulder on the man? And that's what I'm going to get. And then I can go into it and I can go, hey, like, can I now have a wide of these two characters in this setting? And it will do that. So that's kind of like great. Before we used to be able to just, I would like take an image and then put it in the slot machine of Runway or whatever video, model that you have, and just kind of see what happens and then figure out what the rest of the scene would look like and then take screenshots and upscale and just try to map it out that way, which is really time consuming. So this is really awesome that we can now do this, that ChatGPT has like an image model. But then Runway, literally a couple of days ago, this is where it gets really, really fun, I'm so excited to talk about this, is you can create consistent characters and consistent scenes with just like 1 or 2 or 3 reference images. So what it does is it allows you to upload a couple of images and then it will generate a scene in that space, which is really cool for sequencing shots or like coverage or whatnot. So this is a demo that Runway put out, which is essentially a character and a location. And they're basically saying, put this character in that location. And now you can do that, which is freaking cool. And it's the same character over and over and over again, which is very exciting. Cool. So what happens when you have something like this? So I am working on a project with Michael Bay at the moment, and I can't talk about the project, but what I can say is a little bit of the workflow that I'm using. So like I said, I'm working with some directors who are really excited about AI, and they want to know how to put it into their workflow. So what I end up doing is coming into the process when they already have their animation team and their artists and the people that are drawing and all that beautiful like artwork, and they kind of go, hey, I have this side angle image of this character. I really want to put it into Unreal and do X, Y, Z. Can I have a front version of that? So I will then take that character. This is just a character I have from something else, just to show you as an example. But I will take that character and I can take it into Runway and I can say, can I have a front-facing shot of this character? And see if it matches it. And that's what you get, which is pretty freaking cool. It matches the nose. We've got a couple of versions on the front part of her outfit, but it's extremely consistent, which is excellent. So then I can say, okay, great. Now can I have a wide version of this character from the side profile? And I'll get versions of her outfit and different, bits and pieces. And then I can take that back to the art department and say, great, like here's our model of our character in XYZ poses. How do you feel about these looks? Do you want to put yours on top of that? And so on and so forth. So that's like a really cool way of collaborating with the art team in film. There's another example here of a character where I wanted a side angle on her. And so this is me just asking Runway, can I have a side view of this character from image one? Image one being the one on the left. And I've still basically retained all the detail. Her hair is a little different, and that's okay. It's not perfect, but it's really close. And I can Photoshop those elements out. But you can still see the glassy kind of light in her eyes. The ears are the same. Even the under the eyes is the same with the wrinkles and all that kind of fun stuff. And so then I can go to Runway, and this is where it starts getting really powerful, is I can go, hey, can I have a full view of her? Let me have some outfit options. And so it's going to give me that, which is pretty neat, or that, And so there's like 4 of them. I like the kind of grungy attitude version of her, so that's the one that I went with. And then I can also put her into scenes, and I can prompt it and say, can I have a cinematic close-up of this character in image 1, walking through a location in image 2, and the location that I've provided is like, of just an old, like a beautiful magical forest. Now, it hasn't given me a close-up, but it has given me this character in that setting. So then I just, keep iterating until I get the close-up. Again, that's where the slot machine of AI still continues to kind of exist. So you do have to have an element of patience, but I couldn't do this before this easily, which is wild. And so this is the close-up I ended up getting, 2 versions of it. And her facial expressions are changed, and it feels like that's that character in that environment. So it's really cool that we can basically map out these spaces and then take them back to a director and go, okay, how do you feel about this? And you can do it instantly. Like I can text that director immediately and go, does this land? Does this not? Whereas previously it might take a few days. So that's really exciting. And it's really exciting for the director too. And then you can also add more characters. So I can basically say, okay, here's a really like weird magical little squirrel looking thing. Have these characters walk next to each other. And it's going to give me that image. So it's pretty neat. And then there's a feature I just did recently, which again, unfortunately I can't show, but I will use an example of a different project that I'm on, where you can live action storyboard. So you can now use these techniques that I just showed you in Runway, and you can build out a storyboard for a director. So on this particular feature I'm working on, we spent 8 weeks essentially from top to bottom of a 240-page script, live action storyboarding everything, which would be the mood that then the cinematographer can present and other people can like take, rather than that DP and team going to shot deck and trying to find this reference and that and this and that. So in this example, here's one scene of an old man walking to an old church. So that's how I would break down the scene. And this is all done through Runway with one reference image of this old man. Then you can have the old man as a fisherman, like on the boats, cooking, reading a map. So that would be another scene. And you can have him fishing some more, grabbing an octopus. And like that end image, all of these are super, super cinematic. And that started with one image from Reeve, which I really liked, again, for the editorial side of things. One image, and I did all of this 2 days ago in 30 minutes, which is nuts. So that's just like a really cool use case. Another thing that I've been doing with some teams when I'm collaborating with them in features is a lot of artists will have their sketches and concepts for a character. So this is a sketch that I received for a film that I was working on, and the artist was like, can we have a 3D render of what this might look like and see what the different textures and skin tones could be? So I will take it to an AI, 3D program, and then I can essentially texture it. So this is kind of a bit of a demo on how to do that. This is one of the newer, like literally a week ago, super new, that I just chose to demo this with. You can upload the image into this platform, and it will take about 5 to 7 minutes to essentially ingest it. So once that's done, it's then going to give you something that looks like this, and you can toggle through and move it around and see if it's clean or not. To me, that looks brilliant. I mean, it's picked up the details that I wanted in the headpiece. It's got the 2 side pieces. It's even still got his goatee, and then you can kind of toggle it around. And then I can export that, as a GLB or whatever you need, and give that to the 3D team to essentially like work with, which is really neat. And then I can also go, okay, cool, like let's play around with what this character might look like with different skin textures. And you can do that with any AI app. I use Midjourney, and I took a screenshot of quite literally, this one on the left. I took that image and I took it to Midjourney and I said, retexture with an old alien character. So this was one of the things that it gave me. And these are some other variations, which is really, really neat. So then I can take that back to the team and see if something's working, see if it's not, what pieces do we like, what do we not. But what's really impressive is just like how well it's kept his face. So it's like a really good collaboration between like humans and AI to make things like really fast and good. So I'm going to go back to Magnific. And sorry, this is a lot of information. I know there's just so many great tools, and all of them get used in this process. So Magnific was really great for storyboarding as well, but this is an example of what I mentioned with just the upscaling. So this is kind of a janky image that I made in Midjourney. The eyes of the girl are really weird, and we want to just like clean it up. And if you're taking something like this into like a video model, you're going to want the cleanest version of it so you can get as little like morphing and abnormalities as possible. So essentially, with something like this, it's like you need the highest quality image to get the best output in video. So I will toggle some of the settings here, and you can already see like just changing a couple of tiny settings. Everything's usually on 0 and resemblance is up to 10. You can just see the girl's eyes are like so much better. So that's like a before and that's an after, and there's more texture in the beard, the stubble that the guy has, the hair of the girl, and her eyes most notably. So it's really minimal effort, and it's really easy to do something like that. Great. So now we have all of our AI image knowledge. What next? Then you have all the video models. So when we're working with previs or B-roll or whatever it is, it's like, which one do you pick? Kling, Sora, Runway, Halo, VO. They're just like, it's a ridiculous amount. So these are my favorite ones. So I'm gonna circle back to Runway. And Runway is brilliant because you can also create titles with Runway using references. And you can also take some 3D models, like the ones I showed you before, and do stuff like this. Version is this, which is again taking 3D models, creating an action sequence. So this is just a quick workflow. There's your image. So as you can see, like that's just completely game-changing. Let me just pause that. That's just completely game-changing that you can take these assets now and integrate that into the AI, pipeline and create something that you can very quickly show somebody in a previs way, or you can use it as output. Another project that I do a lot of work on is a company that does a lot of B-roll in old historical events and with footage. And so, there might be certain assets that they don't have to fill out their story. So that's when you can use AI to help you build out the rest of that scene, which is really exciting. And so for that, I work with VO2. I think a lot of people have heard the buzz about Google's VO2. It is my personal go-to for getting realistic outputs beyond the previs. So Runway is great for mapping out a scene, as we just explored, but VO is fantastic for a really, really good high quality output, but then exploring some new shots you may not have thought about. So this is just a test that I ran. It's an 8-second, it gives you 8 seconds. And this is just, a 60s Le Mans female driver. And this is the full shot. And it's text to video, this one. Now you can do image to video, but this is pure text to video, and it's added another shot, which is her now walking through, it's actually 3 shots. It's the cars and then her walking through, which is pretty neat. So that's really fun to play with. So then where does that leave Sora? Because a lot of people have been talking about Sora, and then Sora's release was kind of meh. So I've played extensively with Sora. Sora's brilliant for a reason I think that a lot of people don't realize. It is an expensive model, and it does do really weird, wacky, dancey things with the characters, which is great for advertising, but not super great when you're trying to have good quality output to give your directors or your team. So what I use Sora for is this brilliant function called Remix, which a lot of people I don't think know about. And I will take a shot, so my VO shot, which, wasn't like the best quality, and I'll take it into Sora and I'll be like, hey, remix this, make it 1080, just give me some more detail. And that's how I do it. So there's different remix options. You can have a low or like high totally changes your shot. Low is like a little similar. And this is my output. I have 2 versions that I get to see, and you can see there's like much more detail. It's gonna change the look of the woman a little bit, inevitably. It's not there to, make it exactly the same, which can be frustrating if you're working with consistency. But for something that's a one-off B-roll shot, this is brilliant. And it's got more reflections on the cars, more detail in her face. There's like, she's like looking a little pensive, and it just feels cleaner to me. So that's what I use Sora for. So I've used Sora, again, working with Michael Bay on a commercial that we did recently for the Super Bowl. So that was a really fun experience. I'll just show you a little bit of it here. But what we did in this was it was an ode to America and the old presidents of America and the Secret Service. And so at the first part of this ad, there was a lot of historical footage and images. So what Michael really wanted was to essentially create some B-roll around this that didn't exist. So the battlefield at Normandy, and shots like this reverse here of Bush being told that the second tower just went down. So where I came into this was at the beginning here, turning this shot and this old photograph into something that felt a little bit more realistic. We worked with the Library of Congress to get all the rights, and essentially these are AI shots, and essentially, combine the AI shots with old historical footage, and not footage, but images. So this is an example of one shot that we did. Michael really wanted, just like a battlefield happening on the ocean. It's supposed to be around Normandy. And as you can see, it's raining, but there be no rain falling down. So that's really frustrating. Also, the character and the whole outfit is way too modern for the 1940s, so this shot doesn't work. Also, the ocean is blending into into the ship there. So this is like a straight up Sora anomaly of half the elements working, half of it not. So obviously I can't present that. So what we did was take this shot and use the remix, and I worked with the art department to essentially really lock down what that outfit was supposed to look like and what that character should look like. So these are 2 versions of that. You can now see, the ship is the ship. It's not turning into water. His outfit is older. The guns are going off in the background. And we have another version of it here as well with more, time period, like realistic things. So then we also worked with Kriya, which if any of you have heard of, it helps you train models. So what happens when I get a shot like this of President Lincoln, it's a very old shot. That's the wide over there. That's what we animated. And I animated that and handed it across to Rob Legato, who was our VFX supervisor. It was brilliant. And he would add, grain and moves on top of that to really help sell it. But because that image is really old, when you have the director coming to you and being like, this is great, I love the wide, can we now have a close-up of Lincoln? You zoom in, and Lincoln is totally blurry because it's a really, really old photograph. So when I take that to Runway or Kling or whatever image to video model that you're doing, Lincoln's not going to look like Lincoln. It's going to clean it up in 2 seconds, and it's going to look like a different character. And for someone that well known, you just can't sell that on national TV. So what I did was I used Kriya to essentially gather all the images of Lincoln that I could find, about 5, 6 of them really quickly. And then I would train a model on that version of Lincoln. Again, we got the permission to do this, and because we had those photos cleared, and we would take those and put them together, and I would then take the screenshot, put it underneath, and try to get the new trained model in that pose that Lincoln was in, which would then give me this, which I then animated, and that now looks like Lincoln as we know him. So that's, again, how AI was used in that workflow. Another example is this shot. Again, Michael and his team shot that plate at the front there, which was just, Bush being told in his ear, the second tower has gone down. And that was on a green screen behind. So what we did was we took the original images from the school that Bush was in that particular year and grabbed, the kids from the classroom, again, cleared them, blurred them, and I created 2 versions of a background plate, which I then took to Kling to just animate a little bit, and then that was used as a background plate for that shot. And we did that within like an hour. So that commercial was done within a week, and that's why AI was super handy for something like a project like this, because it just expedited everybody's workflow so much faster. So I worked with the same VFX team he's been working with and a whole bunch of different people, which was just such a great experience. And I used Kling for that. And so we now go back to our storyboard of, that little fluffy cow that I showed you earlier. And we can use all those techniques that I just mentioned to texture him and animate him and have him chase a little butterfly, which is super cute. Kling is brilliant for action. I use it a lot every day. It's my now go-to, that and Runway and Soar and Bio. They all do different things, and you need to know what does what for what. So Kling, this is an example from someone I follow on Twitter, just showcasing how good Kling is at action scenes, which is really, really neat. This is another version of just how well it keeps so many things in the frame. You get a couple of anomalies, but nothing that you can't handle with a couple of re-rolls with that thing flying, I suppose. But overall, that's a lot cleaner than where we were 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So it's getting like really a lot better for high quality output. It also has this thing called elements, where you can take an outfit, a robotic hand in this case, and prompt it for this woman to be wearing it and holding it. So how does that apply to some of the things that I'm working in film? So again, we go back to our girl over here, and just a quick demo, you can add, subtract, and swap characters. So in this case, I really want to have this girl walking through the forest, and I'm going to animate her. And then I'm going to really clean up this little, walking of that thing behind her, because it's kind of morphing a little bit, and I don't love it. So what I do in this case is I can take the original photograph of that cute little thing, and I can go, I want this to be bigger, and I want to clean it up. So we click on multi-elements, which is here, and it's going to put this video. You can also take a video from something else, VO, whatever you've generated, and you can highlight the character that you want to change. So in this case, I just want to make this little thing bigger and smoother. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to drag and drop that character in as my image reference. And so what that looks like, you'll see in a second, is you drag it and drop it down there, and it's going to prompt you in a beautiful formula way. They're making it so much easier for people now, which is brilliant. And you're going to say, swap this character for this character in this thing. So this is swap the small character from the video, is what I'm saying, and swap it with the character from the image, which is pretty cool. And so when it does that, it's going to think, and when it does that, that's going to be my output. So it's bigger, it's morphing a little less, kind of a couple little things around the hands, but it feels a lot better than what we saw before. So when you're, again, working with your previs team, or when you're working with, whatever you want to do on your end, if you're just, making your own thing, that's a really good way to clean up any abnormalities in your videos. You can also swap clothing. So you'll notice in this previous shot this girl is wearing this like long coat and some Ugg boots, and I want her to be wearing this like emo punk outfit. So I can take that into here, and I can essentially just go swap character outfit from the reference video with the character outfit from the image. And it will, give me this. And her head is the same, her eye movement is the same, everything else is the same, which is super impressive. I can then also delete her if I don't want that. So you can delete a character from a shot and it will fill out the details. Like it's just brilliant. And then you can add a character. So I can take this weird other looking, creature, and I can say, in the context of this video, add this character in the background. And that's what it will do. And it's just, again, it's blending really well with those elements. Or you can swap a character. So this is me swapping her with a different character, and that is just using one reference image. And it's filled out the rest brilliantly. So that is something that I'm using a lot when I'm, again, working in previs with directors, and it's so handy. So in conclusion, why does all of this matter? I've given you so much information, and thank you for bearing with me. But I think what I'm trying to say here is that AI can really speed up the idea and development of any type of visualization, whether you're working from storyboards to just have that for your film as you are, working in live action, you don't have any other AI, whatever, that's fantastic. You can also pitch your ideas and get them off the ground faster because people can spark to it quicker. And it essentially just prepares you for just the evolving film industry and rapid prototyping and experimenting. So thanks for listening. AI is a journey and a roller coaster.
Any questions? Okay, ready?
Thank you very much. It was exactly what I was looking for, what you talked about.
Oh, good.
I have one question. You have these models, and you have also interfaces.
Yeah.
And I feel like Krea is more like an interface using different models.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Are you having subscriptions for all thousands of things, or you used one specific interface?
Yeah.
Do you prefer?
So Krea is, you're right. Krea, and there's a couple of others that do that too. Krea has VO now built into it. It has Runway. It has all of those different models. I don't prefer to use that. I think I prefer the interfaces of those actual programs because I know how Runway works. I can see it. I can add those characters, and Krea doesn't have that update yet. They're usually like a week or two behind. They're getting faster, but it doesn't feel like, sometimes this is a glitch I've found, the quality doesn't feel the same. You will get one output sometimes instead of two. So with VO, I'm getting two outputs at once, whereas with Krea, I'm just getting the one video. So it's really good all in one, but as an all in one, it does leave out some of those key other interface elements that I like working with. So Kling, I just showed you character swap and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a really good interface for that in Krea. It's gonna give me the good video, but I can't do those things. So I use Krea mostly for LoRa training, which was what we did on the Lincoln thing. It's a great way to just train characters, and we may not even need LoRa's anymore based on Runway's new update, but that's specifically what I use it for. And ChatGPT is now built within it, so you can do image ChatGPT, which I prefer than actually going to ChatGPT. So that's my preference, but it's different to everybody. Does that help? Yeah, cool.
Right over here.
In most creative processes, you basically go from rough to detail.
Yeah.
And I think Gen AI makes it very tempting and easy to go to a sort of final quality very quickly. What do you think about the tendency to derail your ideas, maybe?
Mm-hmm. So the question is just, derailing it by not achieving that quality. I mean, I think it comes down to just everyone's personal taste of I'm a perfectionist, so I don't really settle on on that. But it depends on your output. If you're a hobbyist and you're wanting to just do that and look for that, great. But if you are a perfectionist and you want to keep pushing it, I mean, there's a film that I've been working on with a team of animators that is half AI, half, traditional animation. And the quality and the output, I'm not happy with it. I haven't been until about 3 weeks ago, and I redid the whole film with VO because I finally felt like, okay, now we can do what we wanted to do. So yeah, I think that's how I work with it. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Not perfectly, because I wasn't talking about getting final quality from it, but giving you final quality ideas.
Oh,
so,
I see. Yeah.
Too much, too early, sort of.
I have weird dreams because I look at a lot of images too much, and you're looking at people all the time, and like every time I look at people, it's like I'm like hyperfixed. It gives me anxiety sometimes. So yes, it can be just sensory overload, and I have to know when to stop. And that's just filtering yourself, I think, because it does, and it can be very overwhelming. So like walk outside, take a breath. But I also work with humans for that reason too, because I don't want to make everything AI. It's just too much. Yeah.
Right over here.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. You said somewhere in the talk that it's also great for pitching ideas, and I have been pitching using a lot of AI imagery, even though I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I feel that, okay, why bother? Because this goes a little faster. And I think what this gentleman was also saying is that you get stuck in your head with the clean final look, and then you do not ideate any further.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's because I find that happens often. And my question really is, when people are averse to AI, they can just throw a pitch away on the basis of the fact that it is made in AI.
Yeah.
How do you deal with stuff like that?
So it's interesting. It was not very accepted a year ago, and there are still people throwing tomatoes at people, for sure. And I still get that. But I do genuinely think that the landscape is shifting. And I mean, if you just look at like myself as an example, I was, supposed to do one thing and it didn't happen. And because a few people were excited about AI, it's all it takes is one person to get excited about it, to have a conversation about it, and that can start a chain reaction, actually can set you further than maybe where you were before. So I think if people are negative about it, they're not your people, A lot of people are starting to catch up. And that is, even in this conversation, the fact that it's happening, I think is a really wonderful thing. So just don't worry about the noise, keep going, because people will come around, in their own way. And if they don't, that's okay. They're not your people.
We got about 2 more minutes.
Thanks for the talk, very good. My question is, how do you control and manage the budget? There is so many models, and also the time and all the testing time. So that's mainly that. So we have the same problem as well.
Very good question, and it's a forever moving target. It's very difficult. When I'm working on commercials and features like this, I have access to a lot of these models because I've been working with them for a while. But then you'll have something like VO a couple of weeks ago revoked everyone's access, and now you had to pay for it, and it was like $1 per shot. So I think it comes down to as soon as you start working with anybody in this like professional space, you have to be upfront about this is where the landscape is, this is what this costs, this is my rate with this, or incorporate that into your rate, because it can be very expensive. So yeah, it's you just have to be cognizant of it and be very open in your communication so people are aware of that. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Thanks for the presentation. It showed what is possible with those tools, and from what I understood, you implied that it's also easy to use. And I could tell from what you showed, there were like 4 buttons on the screen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like those tools are very complicated to use. So my question is, because it's so easy to use, and when more people will adapt to using it, what separates you as someone using it from anyone else using it? What makes you competitive when you use those tools?
This is a really good question. it's not that easy to use. I gave you the quick condensed version. It's becoming easier though. So Runway is much easier. So don't get me wrong. That is 4 buttons, very, very easy. And I think the way that you do it is, again, a filmmaker will always be a filmmaker. Somebody who is an artist already kind of knows what to look for in certain things. And so I think there will be that space where you're going to understand who the storytellers are, who can craft a story, and then the ones who are a bit more hobbyists that are kind of just playing and getting into it. So I think it just comes down to the things that have always been prevalent in different industries. It's knowing your craft, and that sets you apart, and how you talk to it and work with it. And I kit bash and I work with a lot of different apps to maintain my control over it. Some people might just use the one thing and then output it, whereas I'm very picky with working with 5 or 6 or 7 different things. So that's how I stay, with my imprint. So I think it just comes down to knowing how to tell the story that you want to tell and the different apps that you use to tell it, if that makes sense.
Let's hear it for Ellenor, and we'll be back in 15 minutes.